So we use SmartSheets. We haven't developed it to where it's really useful for us yet. But we have some kind of odds and ends and some data compilation that works pretty well for what we need for. We need to kind of dial it in and get, because you guys end up getting those templates uploaded, right? Snags in the road and try to get something worked out.
Yeah.
But we're also considering, because we go through the county for our IT stuff, and they move different teams. So we're trying to navigate what options are available with the Teams platform, and because we don't really know what all the options are, what's available, with the small amount that we do and use that kind of stuff for, does it have kind of the same capacity that we could migrate what we have in SmartSheets over to some sort of Teams system and make it easier kind of thing?
I would say if you're, hi Joe. If you're trying to compare something like SmartSheets and Teams, it's apples and oranges. I don't like that because I like both apples and oranges, but it's SmartSheets, at least the way we use it, it's more. Were you in the session yesterday in admin? So I don't have to show you. It's more of that kind of stuff. Teams, you can't do that. You would have to go to lists in Microsoft 365, and it's nowhere near nice to use as SmartSheets. It's sort of like they saw SmartSheets and decided to build their own something like it, and it's not fluid. It's like, come on in, yeah, we're just talking. So having both of those things, and we use them for different things. Teams for communication. We no longer send each other emails and have this long chain of back and forth. We can just go into the chat and see what's going on. And you can have teams in Teams that we have the admin team. We have the whole staff. We have the staff and the board. So we all can talk together. And then under the, let me just open it. Underneath those teams, you have different channels. So because we're government, ask your users not to create teams, because we have to back those teams up. Oh, we're going to use it for 3 months. You now have to back it up at least 2 years. And if it's a certain project, you now have to back it up for 7 if it's a federal project, or whatever project has to be backed up for 7 years. So, so have them, instead of creating new teams for every project, create a channel under the main teams, and you can restrict who has access to those if you want to. But if something like admin team, all the administrative people get access to that. Maybe an HR team, that kind of thing. Keep them the least amount as possible so people don't get confused. But the issue of that is everyone can create a team, even your users. They haven't locked that down yet, which I find so annoying.
Ours is locked down because the county runs it. So
they figured out a way to lock it. Yeah, I haven't figured. When I have a huge IT department, I can do that. So our teams, we have the staff and the board. Information is, they came up with a fun word for the education and outreach people, and then we have an admin team. And each one of these has multiple channels underneath it, and you can easily create new channels and then invite other people, and you can set the notifications so you don't get notified. Let's use IT help, channel notifications. Do I get a banner popping up? Do we get a feed, or do I just see it on Teams? It'll go bold like it is over here. If there's something in there I need to see, it's not, I don't need to see that right away. So I can, when I open Teams, oh, there's something in there, kind of thing. Or maybe it's I need to see it right away because it's IT help. I need to see it, so I will get a notification. I can set that in here. I usually, when I set up a new person's Teams, I will set these notifications up for them. But most of the time, if it's for 1 or 2 people, what's up?
For gives meetings hour when.
On the way? It's right here, right there.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to, I'm leaving early, so I just wanted to tell one of my other staff.
Oh, yeah, come see me, yeah, in the theater.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yep. A lot of people, when they first start out with Teams, they think they have to create a Teams to have a conversation with someone or multiple people. No, you create a chat with multiple people in that chat, and then you can rename that chat whatever you want. Do I have one of them in here? Yeah, I've connected SmartSheets to this, so I get notifications in here. I get way too many notifications, by the way.
You can connect SmartSheets to it.
Yeah, you can connect it. I would suggest not. Because all it is notifications. There's no really, interaction. There's not much at this point. But if you like to get notifications in Teams, yeah, you can do that. We did it, and it's like, oh, it's not what we thought it was going to be. So we get notifications in email. So I get a notification in Teams and email and my SmartSheets app. But I'm used to it by now. Like this Wix editing, you can only have one person in Wix at a time editing. So we created this chat with all the people that edit Wix. So we can say, I'm going into Wix to edit, and then they say, I'm leaving Wix. So you can have those, and they're there for a long time. And then Teams gets backed up and all that kind of stuff. And then you can obviously you can make calls and video calls and that kind of stuff. The calendars are your Outlook calendar, so it's integrated. If you create a meeting in Teams, it will default to a Teams meeting. Just be aware of that. I think besides chat feature, I think one of the things we use it a lot for is multiple people editing the document at the same time. You can edit directly into Teams. So Excel, Word, all that kind of stuff. If sometimes it's like, oh, I need more features than I can get in Teams, I want a bigger window, whatever, you can take it into the browser and you can also edit multiple people at the same time. We've had issues with it when you take it to the desktop app and try to edit at the same time, because you end up with 2 different versions because it couldn't sync in time and all that. So if we're both editing at the same time, we do it in the browser. If it's a big document, if it's, a couple of text changes of this document, or this is a rough draft email kind of thing, we just do it in Teams and people edit it.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
So our district, we work with the WSU Energy Program to give us the IT support, and we were told that we only use chat on the team when like we have 2 of us just want to have normal conversation, not really work-wise, because they cannot back up our data on the chat. Instead, they ask us to use Poster. Is this the same thing in the district?
That it's not, they're not backing up the chats.
They cannot, they told me.
As far as I know, it depends on the software system you're using. They might not be able to do it. We go through a separate, as far as I know, they're backing up our chats. I should check that. But we use spanning, I believe it is, and it backs up our 365 for us. It's rather pricey, but it backs up there, and I also have a Synology disk station that I back it up to that. So I have 2 backups, and they back up in different ways. So sometimes one will have it quicker than the other, but it does back up. I gotta check if the chat's backed up. But if there's no way to back it up, I've got a really good excuse not to have it backed up.
Yeah. Do
yeah,
you use
it's-
OneDrive to save files?
That's a complicated question. It doesn't sound like it, but it is. So how 365 works
Mm.
is it uses SharePoint for the back end for Teams, OneDrive,
Yeah.
SharePoint, everything. That's the file management. But on the desktop, OneDrive is the interface for SharePoint.
Oh.
So this, here we have my OneDrive.
Mhm.
Come on. And now it's gonna freeze on me. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Oh, I need to share my screen down. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Okay. Now I'm shared. Okay. Here's my OneDrive, and that's essentially my personal drive on our SharePoint, right? I tell my all my users, and you notice I have a whole bunch of stuff because I work with other districts and that kind of stuff. And I've been here for 25 years, and you accumulate. But none of that stuff in there is anyone else in the district needs to get to. It's just me. And when I tell all my new users, don't put anything in your OneDrive unless it is personal and nobody will ever need to get to it. And stuff like timesheets. Obviously nobody else needs to get to your copies of timesheets. We have them on our main server. So that kind of stuff you can put in there. Everything else goes in the company drive. And I tell them that because we're having a lot of turnover in the last 5 or 6 years. They come in, they start putting stuff in their OneDrive. Oh, I'll move that stuff over, and they never move it over. I have to find out where everything is. People are looking for it. I have to move it out of their OneDrive. It's like, we just don't do that. Put it all in the company drive, and that company drive is right here under SharePoint. These are my SharePoint drive. I've synced them to Windows Explorer so that, don't name it that, by the way. Don't name it site collections, make it short. When I set this up in 2020, it was the first time that I would ever set it up. I didn't know there was a character limit. Yeah. With Excel, 214 or 216 characters. It doesn't work in SharePoint if it's over that, and that's the whole path. So site collection, documenting.
And I do that with a lot of our, even Word documents.
Yep.
It's like, can't save here.
But this share drive is also on the cloud, right?
Yeah, this is all on the cloud. This is all shared. You
Shared
can
on the-
see, yeah, this is our SharePoint drive. So
SharePoint
we have one for the company drive, which is our main one. We have one for conservation planning, and we have one for prep. We have a couple others that I don't have I don't have synced on this machine. I have them at work, but I can just go into the browser and find that SharePoint and sync it, and it'll sync to this if I wanted to.
But we also have this SharePoint drive, but my issue is that sometimes I want to share, I want to send stuff a file.
Yep.
And I just copy the link and attach to the email, and they come back to me
Yeah.
saying they cannot open it.
And that is for a very good reason. And the reason is security. If you did that, you now gave them access to something in your company drive, your main drive.
I cannot do that.
No, as an IT person, I'd slap you on the wrist. It's like, why would you want to give them access to our main company drive? But the workaround for that is use your own, the OneDrive up here.
Yeah, okay.
This you can share out to other people. I created a folder, so I only share from one folder. I just call it public folder. And I can go in here, right click on it, share that link. And then next time I go in here, it's like, oh, I can delete that other file. It's been 6 months. I don't need to have it in there. I get rid of it. And that's how I keep track of the ones I share. With SharePoint and OneDrive, you can set it up so the link is only useful between these dates. After a certain date, it goes away. You can even password protect it if you want to. But you can't share from a default GCC government tenant. You can create a SharePoint drive that is open to other organizations, which we've done for our forestry and forestry and wildfire, so that Skagit and us, I think one other person can get into it, but we give them access to get into it. But it's a separate one than our main company drive. It's only wildfire stuff.
Okay.
It took a little bit to find out how to do that, but I think I've got notes on it if you do need to do it.
Is there a file size limit on what you can share with people externally? Like if we have to,
I don't think so.
okay.
I haven't run across it yet.
I mean, I don't have any crazy files. I'm just looking for like
Yeah.
50 megabytes. Our engineering
Oh.
files are usually like too big for an email, but going to an FTP is like an overkill.
Oh,
for
God,
that.
yes. Just put it in, make a folder like I just showed you and just share it from there in your OneDrive. That's the way I would do it. Or, I mean, if you don't have 365 and you have like the Google Suite, create a folder that everyone can get to, kind of thing. But if you're sharing a lot, it might be a good idea to set up a SharePoint for you all to just grab files out of there from different organizations and tenants.
Are you
Like
still-
that's why we did the wildfire stuff.
Still using the Google Workspace as well?
I use it a little bit. I help out Snohomish. They're not, well, they have a 365, but it is only for Office, but it doesn't have all the other stuff that a regular 365 has. I think it's only Office. They're mostly going on Google Workspace, which I don't blame them. Google Workspace is better than the file structure and management and synchronization is better than SharePoint, in my opinion. But it's different. It's a different setup. Like we have Teams, and their chat is, from what I understand, doesn't work that great. It doesn't work like Teams does. It doesn't share files. It doesn't do all that. Like with Teams, I can share files in it, unless you're external, then I can't share files. But it's a very different setup. And they love their Google Drives and stuff, so they're sticking with that, and it's not terribly expensive to stay on that. So they just stayed on only using Microsoft 365 for other things.
One of the things that we've looked at was, or I should say, me personally, is looking at having some files on SharePoint, but then using that Dataverse for project tracking. And so I was wondering if that's, it's basically like Excel in the cloud.
I haven't used it. We use, for that kind of stuff, we would use SmartSheets
Oh, really?
for us. Yeah.
Because I want to be able to look up, like have one field in SmartSheet to look up from another table, but they can't do that.
Oh, you
Not the-
want a relational kind of thing. You
Yeah.
can look, yeah. SmartSheets doesn't allow you that ability to have a drop-down menu that looks up from a different table. And it's something people have been asking for many years. There is a version that you can pay for that will allow you to do that. But
We
it's
got the
like
sales
double
pitch
the
on that.
price that we're gonna, it's like, no, I'll just go in there and type it.
Because like that's like really the only
Yeah,
like
I know.
like it's like the one feature that I need.
It would be so nice. It would be so nice. But it's been asked for. I've gone back in forums, and it was like 2018, 2017, 2016. They were asking for it, and it's still, it is a basic thing for a database. One of the basic things for the database, and they don't have it on their basic stuff. But I think that's how they get
Oh,
bigger companies roped in by getting that extra add-on. Yeah. Did I answer your question at the beginning? I think I went off on a tangent.
I'm thinking around that way.
Okay, yeah, it's SmartSheets is, we did a whole presentation at the admin track on SmartSheets yesterday, and these two were at it. And it's a different thing than Teams. I wouldn't try to compare them. It's just you use it for totally different things. Yeah,
We're trying to figure out, if we need to continue paying for SmartSheets, since we are such a small district, we use it for such a minimal amount of stuff. We have I think there's potential to use it for a lot more things, it's just trying to find the time to build those.
Yep.
That are actually useful instead of just something that we spend, half a day building and never actually touched it.
it's one of those things. It's like you find what like an in and out board. People have the ones up on the wall kind of thing, and that's great when you're all in the office. Not so much when you're remote and that kind of stuff. So something like that might be a great interaction, first go at something like that. Checklists, timelines, like our plant sale. We have a huge SmartSheets that has everything that needs to be done for a plant sale. And then dates along with it, and who is assigned to do that. So, and then is it completed checkbox? So as Emily goes through the months-long process of the plant sale, she can say, oh, this is done, and it will automate. With the automations, it will send her an email or whoever it's assigned to say, hey, this needs to be done. The website needs updated. The cost, the prices needs to update. The point of sale information needs to update. So all of that checklist is very handy. I mean, you would put it in an Excel sheet, but then Excel doesn't have the automations and all of that can remind people to do it. 3 days before, get a notification. The day before, the day of, get a notification if it's not completed. And a day after, get a notification. 2 days after, get a notification. Until it gets completed. And it's just a checkbox that gets completed. And then you can store when that checkbox actually got checked in another date field, if you want.
One platform system we've been trying to look into and figure out if we can do something is, for our outreach and events, getting some sort of listserv system set up, and being able to pull, say we only want to reach out to people that come to our livestock. That way we don't invite the entire contact list. Is there a good system for that? Is that?
If you were just doing email, I would say something like MailChimp, because you can organize in there. But MailChimp does not do, as far as I know, I've checked in a few years, it doesn't do addresses, like physical addresses. So it doesn't work well for that kind of stuff. So I keep talking about SmartSheets, but we do use a different database online for a relational database. We use QuckBase, which is an Intuit, the same people that make QuickBooks. It is a full-on relational database. It is tremendously powerful.
Is this expensive?
Yes.
Oh,
That's it. SmartSheets is cheap, $750 for three accounts yearly kind of thing. And it's I think it's up to $30 per user per month, and the minimum they start with, oh, you can only have 20 is the minimum, and then other districts would be no. San Juan Island has talked them down to 10 or 5 or something like that, because it's literally they don't need 20, they need 5. So they talked them down to it, and you just have to go through it. Talk to San Juan if you do want to go that route. But let me log in. It's because this is a relational database. Oh, I don't want to read it. So this, which one? Oh, yeah, changed. Okay. I'm like looking for livestock database. We changed the name. So this is our QuickBase database, and each one of these up here is a different table that are all linked to our customer table. For some reason, I really like this setup. It's that. This is our customer database, and it is linked to many, many different tables. And then, like say, the customers, and each customer has multiple projects, and each project has multiple, documents and messages and that kind of stuff. All that flows together or works well together. It's things synchronized, and I don't have to. In SmartSheets, I would have to literally make the links manually, kind of thing. This has it all built in. We use this. We've used it since about 2012, and this is our customer relation database. So if you got something like this would be a good way of doing that. But you could also do it if you're not doing linkages to other tables, you could just do a SmartSheets table and just throw new people in there. We do a contact form. I think we mentioned it yesterday. A contact form that, contact us. What are you interested in? There's a checkbox for each program. And then if whatever program they check, like say wildfire, it will get routed, a copy of it will get, or a notification goes to Robert and Alexis. If it's farm plan, a notification goes to Trevor and Elizabeth. And it could be multiple, and they get notified of that new contact. And then there's yes, I've contacted this person box. And we're going to assign it to this person. All of that is in SmartSheet. You could do something like that as well.
I have something set up like that. We haven't got the notifications thing set up yet.
Then how you connected that SmartSheet content with this?
We wouldn't. This is it's sort of separate. It's kind of a separate thing. One is a contact form, like we need to contact, and sometimes they just want some information over the phone. We don't need to put it in here. Sometimes we will, but sometimes we won't. But if they're going to do a planning, we're going to be merging all those databases up at the top. We're going to try to merge them all into one customer and then branch out. Because in QuickBase, you can have a customer database and put all the customers in there, and then have separate databases that link back to the customer database. So it's using that customer information in separate, one for wildfire, one for planning, one for education and outreach. And they can have the separate extra tables that the other programs don't need, but it's all based on the same customer relation database. That's how I would build it now. When I was building it back then, I didn't know about that. So, and that was 12 years ago.
So if you do it now, you build separate databases for all these different, essentially different programs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But now I would build, they call them apps in here, but they would all link back to that main customer database.
Only those customers who has project working with you goes there.
Yes. So if like there's a wildfire, there's a Lake Whatcom hit, and so all that information gets put into here, and yeah, let's minimize that way. I'll show you one here real quick. Customers. I think I have a test one here. And it's set up in a database. It's not terribly pretty, but it has everything in it, kind of thing. We have, the company, first name, last name, county they're in, watershed, parcel number, and if I start editing, you'll actually see which ones are needed, which ones are required. We have drop downs. You can click multiple, so they're in multiple programs or category types, and so that's different ways of categorizing it, because we have people in here that some are in wildfire and forestry and farm planning, and some of the dairies also have small farms. So we got to be able to have more than one. An inactive button, these mailing lists. So if they want to be on a mailing list, we just check that. And there's a report up here that Karina runs, and she exports it to Excel and drops it, copies the email addresses. Well, you can copy from here directly into Outlook, and she sends it out. And then for well, lots of other contact information, other notes. We have projects down here, so one person can have multiple projects going on. And then inspection and plan dates, we don't use much anymore. It was used for a specific grant. But the P&I notes, very, very helpful. So especially with the turnover we've had in the last few years, when they go out, they can put it up on their phone and write the notes on their cell phone if they wanted to. And yeah, and just text to speech or speech to text, write all the notes in there so that the next person that gets in here, or then 2 years later, they know what they went out there, what they saw, and all that kind of stuff. I put in, created a farm plan map for this person, kind of thing. Additional locations, because some of the farmers have multiple farmsteads throughout the county. Additional people, there might be a wife, a son, a project manager, or a farm manager, or something like that we want to put in here. So it's a very good system, but it is pricey. If you use it the way it can be used, it doesn't seem as pricey. We spend, I think, 300 and something for 13 users. And I think, yeah, our county has one user account that they come in and look at the HIP database up here. They have access to that HIP database. We gave them one account so that they can, and we charge them for it in the grant, but they can come in and look at all the HIP information. So this, I would never try to do this in SmartSheets just because of the relational database issues. But in here, it works great. And after that learning curve of using this, it's very powerful and very useful. If you use it. If you don't use it, if you set it up and never use it, garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. But especially Karina is very adamant, our conservation planning lead, she is very adamant of getting people to actually put information in this, because she's had so much turnover that she's had to teach people multiple times, and that P&I notes, very, very handy.
How do you choose QuickBase over the other options?
I didn't.
Okay.
My boss did at the time. He's like, oh, I saw this, let's buy it. He's one of those people.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was like,
That was my deal for Dataverse. We're already paying for the
Yeah.
365 license. I'm like, well, I kind of like free, but like,
Yeah.
is it worth it?
well, this kind of stuff can't be easily done in 365. Their database was Access for a long time, and they had the market on it. They just could not make it go to the cloud. Don't use Access with SharePoint. Bad idea. It doesn't sync well, and if two people open it, it just corrupts it. So we still have on-site server for our GIS stuff and our databases. Oh, and video, because you will use up your storage in SharePoint really quickly if you do a lot of video. So we took those and we have an on-site server for that. And it's cheap to get an on-site server. It does not have to be a Windows server. I'll be migrating from our old Windows 2012 server to our Synology here soon. Yeah, we bought it last summer. Still haven't done it. Yeah. I have to come in on the weekends. Yeah. But having some sort of database system like this is a very good thing. I find QuickBase, my boss essentially made me do it. I was like, Access works fine. This is back in 2012. Access works fine, but he wanted people to be able to get it from, work from home, get it out in the field, and it's like, okay. And I moved it all up and then up to QuickBase. And after we got it up there, it's like, okay, this is cool. He pushed me into it, and it really works well. Except for if you want specifically formatted reports. Like in Access, I can do any kind of formatting I want. I mean, I recreated our timesheets, the old timesheets that you used to sign. I recreated that in Access. So from our timekeeping software, I download it, throw it into Access. Well, Dawn does it just with a button. And we print up our timesheets and then we sign them because for some reason the commission still wants the signed timesheets. But we do it, and that kind of formatting, you just can't do it here without bringing in a developer to do it, and lots of coding and lots of money. It's like, nah. But it kicks out reports perfectly fine. The reports sort of look like this. Let's go to reports. Let's do customers and watersheds. And it just lists them by customers and watersheds, you know, what watershed they're in. And it's like, oh, I want to filter it. Give me everything in Bertrand Creek watershed. And done. And if I wanted to, I can, let's see, vendor. It actually does it all on the fly. And it's quick. It's very quick. And, you know, lots of filtering. And even the customer, if you go back to the customer form, they have filters off to the left. No, maybe not, on the home page. They have filters off to the left that you can use as well. Lots of reports and that kind of stuff. These are all the different types of reports. And this is also the admin view. This is really great when you're trying to work out why someone can't see something. It's like, I'm going to go in as Elizabeth. I'm going to test it. This is Elizabeth's homepage until I fix it. I built it like this because someone that doesn't know technology and had a really hard time. So I built them a very simple homepage like 10 years ago, and they're still using it. I just haven't had time to learn to fix it. But this is what they see. You can see up at the top, there's less tables. They don't need to see all the small little child tables. So they can go in and make it as simple as possible. And it's like, okay, I can see what they see now. I can fix what the issue is, and I can end the test and I go back to admin view. Very handy.
So when you first set up the database, you created all the categories, like the.
Yep.
All these categories.
Yep. Any other platforms you guys are interested in? All the platforms we use. 365, Google Workspace, SmartSheets, QuickBase, MailChimp, SurveyMonkey, ArcGIS. Dovico is our timesheet. Don't go there. We had to go there at the time. We don't have to anymore, but it's going to be a pain in the butt to move, and it's cheap. It's out of Nova Scotia, actually.
We use QuickBooks time.
Yep. Someone asked me that yesterday. What do you suggest? And because they're still using the old paper, print out the Excel paper kind of stuff. I told them they use QuickBooks. I told them to go to the T-Sheets.
Yeah.
I think it's called T-Sheets. And then Wave for our broadband. We're going to be going over to Zoom Phone soon. I'll let you guys know next summer how it went. It's cheaper from base. It's like 40% of the cost, 30% of the cost, and everyone gets their own Zoom account. It's essentially mostly a voice over IP and using Zoom. Square for our point of sale and our point of sale website. Because it has a built-in website online versioning, we're going to probably stick with that because it's just so easy. It just all talks to each other, and we're not doing two different systems and that kind of stuff. Spanning is our backup and page for 365, and Page Freezer is our archiving, our backups for our social media and website. if you're not backing up your social media and your websites, you better start, because as soon as you get a PRR and they say, oh, I want everything on Facebook that you posted and all the comments, and you don't have it, you might get fined. If you don't have at least 10, I think it's 10 social media accounts, and what conservation district does, go in with another district, because the lowest it's like you buy Page Freezer, and it's for social media, and it is it's the lowest is 10. It just comes with a chunk of 10. Because it's like, oh, you don't have to only back up your social media. You can back up anybody's social media. Well, depending on social media. Nextdoor is separate. You have to pay that separately, but the basics is like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. What are the other ones? I don't think it does TikTok. Some of the bigger names, so it will back up for that. And we filled out our 10 with, I think, Skagit and Jefferson. No, Jefferson for the website. Someone else is filling out. It might be Woodby that we're backing up their some of their social media to fill out that, to get the most use out of it, and then we share the cost of it. But the websites are different than the social media. So I think one of them costs $1,400 a year, and one of them costs $1,700 a year. I think the 17 is the 3 websites that we back up: ours, Jefferson's, and Skagit's. So it's not terribly expensive, but it's something that you have to shell out every year for a backup, and you can go back as far as they've got backups. If you have a small district and you don't have the capacity of that, just go to the Wayback Machine. It's essentially a website it backs up automatically websites all over the world, kind of thing. And that is sort of like a backup. If you get to a PRR and the lawyers get sticklers for it, it may not be enough. But that's where, I mean, if you don't have the money and it's a small website anyways, you could use that. I'm not a lawyer, do not take that as lawyer speak or whatever. So, but a lot of districts, it's like, we don't have the capacity to do that. We can just go to the Wayback Machine. The Internet Archive, it's also called. If you do a lot of posting on your blog, on your website, you should probably get something like Pages. And it's very handy. It's like, oh, what did we put on our plant sale page last year? And we just copy it over, copy the text over. What do you guys use for your backup archiving websites and that kind of stuff?
Ours is currently posted through the county, so we just.
They do it then.
assume They do it,
Yep.
but we are also, because it's such a poor done website, we're moving to our own website. We don't have any social media at all either, which that's another thing on our list. We're gonna start doing Facebook, because that's the only place that people find information.
As soon as you get into social media, you have to back up all the social media. Because you're gonna have issues of people commenting, and they comment, say something really bad, and it goes away. And then there's a lot, people have an uproar. It's like, you need backups of that kind of stuff. So being able to go back to something and say, what did this person post, is very, very handy.
Being a public entity, we were talking about this, and that's one of the big deterrents to why we don't have any social media.
There's a lot of districts that say the same thing.
So we were trying to convince them, like, well, we can turn the commenting off in general, but I don't know with.
It loses its usefulness then, yeah. But what I would do is get together with a couple of the CDs around your area and say, we want to do Page Freezer and social media backups. Would you like to go in with us and do that way? Now, if you go, there are some, if you're willing to pay for it, there are a few companies that I think Streamline we're looking at right now. I should say my boss is looking at. I'm like, no, we don't need that. But I said the same thing about QuickBase a long time ago. It's like $100 a month. But it's got built-in backups. It's got built-in access. It's like the disability access stuff. It's built in to the whole system to be very good at that. So it's instead of something like Squarespace or Wix, you use Streamline. If you want to go that direction and pay that money for them to deal with it, and from what they say, their customer service is amazing, and they can do a lot of the moving over to keep it off your plate and not have to worry about that. That's a great way to do that. Do not go to WordPress. The reason being is if you go to WordPress, you need to have someone that's really good at WordPress to keep it all updated. You have to keep the back end of it updated and all the plugins that you use updated and all that kind of stuff. Because that's why I loved going from Drupal, which is more, it's like Smithsonian Institute uses Drupal kind of thing. It's a huge platform, very robust, but I got tired of dealing with the back end of it, updating the databases, updating the code. We went to Wix. I don't have as much control over it. I don't have the backups anymore, the revisions, but I don't have to worry about the back end and people getting into it. It's essentially off my table. You pay for that, the not having to think about it as much.
So as far as platforms for building and hosting websites, Wix and Squarespace is your kind of go-tos?
And well, I think, what is Wix up to? I think it's like $15 to $20 a month or something like that. But keep in mind, even then, you're gonna need a lot of work to get your website up. Someone's gonna have to manage it and all that. From what Streamline tells me, they can take what you have and move it all over for you. Essentially, they're built for small nonprofits and local governments and that kind of thing to help them out and make it really easy for them to migrate over and manage their website and all that kind of stuff. Did we get any? Yeah, I'm not even checking. Is Joe still listening? Yep, Joe's still listening. Any other questions? We've got like 3 minutes.
I wonder, can we just get rid of Zoom because we have Teams?
No. Well, Teams is great for small groups. As soon as you get into the larger groups, at least last time I tested this out, as soon as you get into the larger groups, like say 30 people, it's nuts. And with Teams, you sometimes you get into the problem with multiple people don't have Teams accounts or 365 account. They have to set up, and everyone's used to Zoom. And you click on Zoom, it pops up with Zoom downloads, it pops it up. You don't have to touch it. That's essentially why Zoom blew up during COVID, is because it was simple to use. It was extremely bad security, but it was simple to use. Their security is a lot better now because so many people use it. But it's so simple to use, whereas Teams is not simple to use. Sorry to say, but if we're doing like internal stuff, internal meetings and that kind of stuff, we use Teams all the way. Even some of the managers meetings and that kind of stuff, they use Teams, which is fine. But as soon as you get into getting the public in and doing that kind of stuff, Zoom is a better option in that kind of stuff. So we have a Zoom account, and it's also in Zoom. I don't know if you can do this in Teams, but it's a reoccurring thing. So we have one link for our board meetings. And it's just every date it comes up, it's a reoccurring, meeting.
So I'm curious about the database stuff, because that's really where I'm trying to move us into. Because I'd like to have our planting plans linked to, we've just started to standardize project names and linked to like project manager, linking to like these various things. And so for me, it's like a relational setup. That's why I started SmartSheets, and I'm like, which, and I'd like it to be online too.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think of what would be a good way to start that. And
I used to think that, everything has to be linked, all the time. And I kind of got over that feeling because nobody used it.
really,
Yeah, because it's like, oh, we need to link our database with our GIS, and I asked them why. Well, we want to be able to do this. Well, don't you put that information in your geo database in ArcGIS? Well, yes. Well, that information's already there. Why do you need to link it? Put the ID field for the database in there, and that's what we do. I get asked maybe once every 2 or 3 years to take what's in our QuickBase and link it up with our GIS.
so I'm not, I don't need
Yeah.
the GIS.
Yeah, well, no, I'm
I'm
just
not talking
using,
about that. I'm
I'm using
talking
it as
like
an example.
this stuff, other things, kind of like what you have here with the customer.
You can link
Database.
them all together, different systems and stuff. In QuickBase, it's called a pipeline, between different apps. And you can definitely do that. It all depends on how you want to do it and how you want to use it. It's a longer conversation than what
I
we
know.
can go
We
with.
got 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, I would give you a call and we can run through
Okay.
some stuff. Should have asked me that at the beginning of the session, but the linking is a very good thing if it's being used correctly. If you have to think through, and sometimes it's like you have to test it out for a year or two and see if it actually, people are
kinda
actually using it.
did. So I built a
Okay.
SmartSheet tracking vehicle mileage.
Okay.
And so I have like a table for every vehicle.
Yep,
And then what I do is when someone comes back to the office, they can go online and record their mileage.
Yep.
And just drop them in with the person. So you drop that.
yeah, yeah,
And so the drop down menu for the person, you have to link to each, have to make a page for each vehicle, like to record mileage for every vehicle. Just because SmartSheets can't do that.
you just put it all in one sheet.
And so I came into something where it wouldn't come out the other end the way I wanted it to. So
Oh,
like when people enter the data, they enter one sheet, but a separate sheet for every vehicle. It goes to the mileage for that vehicle. And then our admin people can drop down and add another sheet for grants. And then admin people can say, search for grants, every vehicle, every mileage to bill to this grant per month. And that way we can figure out how much money to bill every grant every month.
So I would, just from what you just said, and I know you were in a spot, you know more about it, but how I would set that up. And I might be setting that up in the next few weeks. It would be one sheet, but with different categories, and it would be a form. They don't go into the sheet, they go into the form and put in their mileage and select what grant they're going to be putting it under.
That's exactly what I did.
And
It's
then
a form, not a sheet.
And then you can filter it into a report in SmartSheets that will show you, okay, for this grant, this is all the mileage for that particular grant.
Oh, okay, here's why I didn't do that.
Ah.
Because people write on the wrong mileage. And so to catch the wrong mileage, what I would do is I'd have the sheet for each vehicle. It would say like, take the previous mileage minus the current mileage. Do you have a positive or negative number, or is it zero? And that was like my first thing.
I would probably do that in a separate report
Okay.
instead.
I asked them to take photos and attach to the form. So I can-
Yeah, that would be a good way.
Yeah, I can reconcile.
thi-
If I say negative number, I just open up a picture and see.
I like that, an extra backup. Yeah, I don't think there's a big limit on our attachments, so yeah, that would work great. Of course, 10 years down the line, you might need to get rid of all those attachments. That's a very good one. Yeah,